Ready? Start. Sir, at the very outset, I congratulate the Ministry of Steel and Mines for its efficient working. There has been in the past propaganda on behalf of the private sector that it alone can deliver the goods. It alone is a fiction, and that the public sector is notorious for mismanagement, for efficiency, and for loss of production. Both the things have been exploited by the working of the public sector since the year 1981, and in streamlining the administration of the public undertakings, the Steel Ministry has played a key and crucial role. Para. There has been a mismanagement in this company and its management was taken over. I am personally of the view that whenever mismanagement is visible in any private sector undertaking, then instead of only taking its management for a limited period, it should be taken over permanently, and it should not be a short and half-hearted measure. The company should have been taken over acquired as it is short to be done now in the year 1982 itself. Once the government comes to the conclusion that the company's affairs are not being conducted in an efficient manner, and when the government has to invest funds to the tune of crores of rupees, where is the question of reversing the decision that it may go back to the same old management? Para. Now the second thing is that there is a new strategy which is being restored to by this private business. They somehow or other welcome the takeover of their undertaking, and they start the process of mismanagement deliberately so that the government may be compelled to take it over. They do not invest any money in the revolution of the machinery, which ultimately becomes nothing but a junk, and they would have derived the maximum benefit out of their investment long time ago, and at the time when it is being taken over, nothing worthwhile is left in the undertaking. So it should be taken over at the earlier stage. We are now taking a commitment to the philosophy of the Constitution. The philosophy of the Constitution means that we are committed to the establishment of an egalitarian society where there should not be only political and legal justice, but there would be economic justice. If we want socialism, it should come in a proper and effective way. Full stop. Start. Honorable members, keeping in mind the global requirements and challenges of the 21st century, the government has announced the National Education Policy. For the first time, students have been given the freedom to opt for the subjects of their choice. Under the National Education Policy, students have also been provided the option of changing their subjects or streams in the middle of a course. Under the Pradhan Mantri E-Vidya, my government has developed the Diksha online portal as one nation, one digital platform for school education, even sensitive towards safeguarding the interest of the students. My government has also successfully conducted the JEE and NEET examinations in order to prevent the loss of an academic year. My government believes that the journey of the most deprived sections towards social and economic development begins with access to equality education. More than 3 crore 20 lakh such students are benefiting from various scholarship schemes of the government. These include students belonging to the scheduled caste, backward classes, forest dwellers, and tribal community and minority communities. It is the endeavor of the government to ensure that maximum number of eligible and needy students are able to avail the benefit of the scholarships. Along with this, the central governments share the funding of post-matric scholarship scheme for scheduled caste students is also being enhanced. Similarly, the network of Eklavya model residential schools is being expanded to cover every tribal dominated block to facilitate the education of tribal students. So far, more than 550 such schools have been sanctioned. Para. Along with improvements in education, the emphasis of my government is also on simplifying the streamlining the recruitment process for jobs. The youth have benefited greatly from discontinuation of interviews for recruitment of Group C and Group D posts. By setting up the National Recruitment Agency, the government has freed the youth from the inconvenience of appearing for multiple examinations, following the mantra of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, Sabka Vishwas. My government is ready. Start. It is my privilege this evening to greet you, all my fellow citizens at home and abroad on the 30th anniversary of our independence, and to convey to you my good wishes. It will be my endeavor as the first servant of the people to exert myself to the utmost for the service of our people and our country. I hope to return in some humble way the affection and regard I have enjoyed from all sections of society for 45 years of my political life. Paira. 30 years have gone past since we become free. The events of the recent past have proved the maturity of thought, confirmed our belief in the democratic way of life. Today, we can hold our heads high as the world's largest democracy. This by itself is not enough, and if the democratic way of life is to last, we must look inwards and examine our thoughts and actions. The democratic way of life must result in a rapport between the mass of our people, particularly those living in the rural areas, our political mentors, and the administration. Life for our long suffering people, many of whom live well below the subsistence level, can have no hope unless it has substantial inbuilt economic and social substance. Only then can we mobilize our enormous human resources to actively participate in the task of nation building. Para. We have in these last 30 years experienced success and failure, happiness and sorrow. We have yet to end poverty, ignorance, and disease and inequality of opportunity. The ambition of the greatest man of our times, Mahatma Gandhi, was to wipe tear from every eye. Our work will not be complete until this noble objective has been achieved. Para. India lives in the villages, and these simple folk are our richest heritage. The 5-year plans for socio-economic development have no doubt yielded some result, but has their impact been substantial? Have the benefits of plant development, the remote village, and the weaker sections of the society? Until I assumed the office of President of India, I was a Kisan working in the fields in sun and rain. I know at first hand the difficulties which millions of our countrymen face even in obtaining the basic necessities of life, like drinking water, facilities for education and health. Ready? Start. Their cultivation work properly and the agricultural production of the country is increased. We were pleading that a crop insurance scheme should be chalked out so that it would give relief to the farmer. His crop has to depend on the vagaries of nature. Sometimes there are droughts, and sometimes there are heavy floods, and all that. So there should be a crop insurance scheme. I hope the government will consider this matter. Then there is the question of exercise duty on BDs. I do not know why the government did not leave this item. BD is used by the commonest man, and it is not a luxury item. I appeal to the government that even at this late stage they should reconsider their stand. They should not be dogmatic on this matter, and they should not take it as a prestige issue. After all, BD is being consumed by the communist mind. Lakhs and lakhs of people are dependent on BD for their livelihood. They are working as BD workers in BD factories. So I appeal to the government that the excise duty on BDs should be reduced and there should be no tax on BDs. Sir, I may also bring to the notice of the government another important matter of the Karnataka state. In Karnataka state, the constitutional machinery has failed today and the central government has appointed judge to go into the corruption charges against the chief minister of Karnataka. This is the first time that a chief minister has challenged the authority of the central government to appoint a judge against his will. The chief minister says that the central government has got no authority to appoint a judge against his will. Now the matter is pending in the Supreme Court. Not only that the Karnataka chief minister appointed his own judge to go into the corruption charges against him and his own officers to place the records before the judge appointed by him. That thing is going on in Karnataka. Apart from this, rebel ministers have come up. The chief minister and the ministers are collectively responsible to the people at large. But what is going on there? The chief minister has no confidence in his own ministers. They are known as rebel ministers. Neither have they resigned from the Karnataka cabinet, nor has the chief minister shunted them out. These are the affairs of the Karnataka state. I plead the central government to take appropriate steps to run the government machinery smoothly. Start. Those who have no commitment to the concept of public undertakings, socialism, and working for the underdog should have no place in top management of any undertaking. The difficulties lies in that we are half-hearted in these matters. We have the mentality of private businessmen and also we have the concept and the ideal of a public undertaking. The increasing participation of workers is the only safeguard for the success of any public undertaking in this country. There have been cases of inflated sales and fraudulent transactions about which my honorable friend made a pointed reference. I would submit that the Economic Intelligence Bureau should play an effective role in checking malpractices in such big undertakings. Unless this is done, public undertakings would come in a big way for sharp and hostile criticism from all those who are opposed to the ideology of socialism. Para. As regards 4% interest allowable on the quantum of compensation, my honorable friends has said that this is not fair. The government cannot afford to pay the same amount of higher interest as is done in the case of private sector. The Constitution itself has provided that the quantum of compensation would not be justifiable. It has been done with a deliberate objective. If compensation at market value is to be paid to private individuals, then it would not be possible to take over the undertakings at all. If the shareholders have taken the maximum benefit out of their investment, they should not be paid any compensation, and only nominal compensation can be paid. The Constitution allows legislation in this respect. Pyra. I congratulate the ministers on bringing forward this progressive bill. The steel industry is the basic of our industrial structure. In fact, the extent of industrialization of the country is measured by the amount of steel consumed per head of the population. This industrial undertaking, namely the Iron and Steel Company, is a big industrial complex, and it consists of not only an integrated steel plant but also an iron foundry. The company was started initially after the First World War, and by 1952 it had increased its capacity to 1 million tons. But the decline in the fortunes of the company started in the 60s, and by 63 the production had gone down to 1 lakh tons per year, that is 13% of its rated capacity as stated by the Honorable Minister. In fact, its production had reached a figure of 8 lakh tons. From that, it came down to 1 lakh tons, which was a result of the rotten management and the low price of steel. Ready? Start. There are still glaring inequalities in the standard of living of our people and of opportunities for a better life. We must urgently endeavor to narrow down, if not remove, such difficulties without subjecting any one section of society to particular hardship. We must not allow entrenched, wasted in interest, however powerful and well organized they may be, to impede our efforts in this direction. Vulgar ostentation, unnecessary pomp irritate those less fortunately placed in life. Such gradual accumulations of hatred poses a serious problem and will ultimately tear apart the fabric of our society and our faith in democratic institutions. We have to set a good example individually if we are to succeed collectively as a nation. I have therefore resolved that the initiative in such matters must come from the top. I have decided that I will surrender every month rupees 7,000 of my salary as the President of India, and such portion of my salary as I shall receive will be subject to income tax as in the case of an ordinary citizen. I have also decided to move out of Rashtrapati Bhavan into a simple house which will not be inconsistently detract from the dignity of the high office of the President of India. I will also effect considerable reduction of expenditure at Rashtriya Bhavan. I have asked the government to locate for me some such suitable place where I and my staff can be accommodated in reasonable comfort but at considerably reduced expense to the exchequer. We have been trying to reduce inequalities among the various sections of our people. I am particularly concerned about the lack of uniformity in approach and principles and the inadequate pace of progress in the implementation of land reforms and in the enforcement of controls over the growth of monopolistic tendencies in the non-agricultural sector. Such monopolistic growth of a few vested interests has assumed serious proportions over the years. Political corruption, demoralization in the public services, and a deterioration of standards in public life are directly related to black money and pressures which a few anti-social elements in our society can exert to disrupt national life. We are today worried about rising prices which affected even the basic necessities of life. The upward spiraling prices show title sign of abatement. A small section of our community who are better organized are managing to obtain illusory reliefs from time to time. Such reliefs are unfortunately neutralized even as they are announced by the very watchful and unscrupulous section of our society which preys on human misfortune.